Hello, everyone. Today we'll be discussing how to enhance your K2 smart forms for WCAG 2.1 compliance using Kudzu software. So first, a little primer on what WCAG 2.1 and Section 508 are all about. So WCAG 2.1 is essentially defines how you make your web content more accessible with people with disabilities. Different types of disabilities include auditory, physical, visual, lots of different things that different people and they need help when they're accessing their web content. There are three levels of conformance. There's A, AA, and AAA, and it basically just defines how much is involved and the features available for different people with different disabilities. So everything in AA or everything in A is included in AA, and everything in AAA's has everything included in the lower levels as well. So level AA is what's typically recommended for web form related content, including for web forms. There's a lot of stuff in AAA that either aren't applicable or quite frankly impossible to achieve when it comes to web-based content. Section 508, on the other hand, is it's a part of the Federal Rehabilitation Act that mandates WCAG compliance. So it's the law that enforces the standard. And it's essentially required for any federal organizations or any organization that receives federal funding to be WCAG 2.0 level AA or higher. Okay, so generally speaking, what's the problem? So almost all platforms out there aren't WCAG compliant by default. They're not just magically accessible. There's work that needs to be done in these platforms to make things accessible. And the default behavior for the vast majority of these tools out there are not fully WCAG compliant. So what does Kudzu do? Well, we basically read the form, we read the content, we read the actual structure of the form, and then we inject the necessary metadata, all of the elements, all of the controls within those forms, and we apply the necessary information for the WCAG compliance to kick in. So we have, from a K2 perspective, we have two different options. Option one is new forms that I'm converting through Kudzu. So we bring in a new form, and then at that moment in time when we're publishing out to our K2 farm, we can just make a selection to say, make this WCAG compliant. And option two is any existing K2 smart form using our Accessibility Maker app, which is a collection of a service broker and some smart forms and some smart objects to help us apply the WCAG compliance bits onto the forms that already exist in your farm. So either option is there. We're going to talk about them both right now. Okay, so first we're going to start with this PDF document. This is something that we're going to take option one, where we're converting a form through Kudzu to K2. And at that moment in time, we want to apply the WCAG functionality. So we have this PDF document that we want to convert to a K2 smart form. I've already run that through the tool, so we don't have to go through the wizard here. But let's go ahead and load that up. So I'll come up to, let's find that PIR form. It's right here. I've already read it into the system, and now I want to write that out to K2. So I'll choose K2 or Nintex K2.5. And then over here on the right, we have, we'll put this in a PIR. On the Advanced tab, we have this WCAG compliant. We'll choose yes. And then if I flip back over here to the General tab, we can optionally set either a profile or a theme. The product ships with two pre-built style profiles. So we'll go ahead and choose Kudzu Gray. These really help when it comes to contrast specific errors that might be that you might see. But again, they're optional. You might have your own style profile that already kind of addresses some of that contrast issues. But if you don't, you can use one of our pre-built profiles. So let's just go ahead and publish that out. So Kudzu is building the form. Let's flip back over here to my K2 environment. Let's go ahead and refresh the screen. And there's the form that we just created. And if I run that in my browser, so this is the PDF document that we just converted to K2. For this demo, I'm using a plugin called EqualWeb, or an extension called EqualWeb. There's other things out there for you to look at. But the most important thing right here is you can see we have no errors and no contrast errors, because we chose that WCAG compliant. If I had not checked that box and if I had not used my profile, this particular forms, but I think it would have had like 12 errors or something like that. So just by publishing it out and choosing those options during the conversion process, you have your compliance right there. So the second option is applying WCAG to any existing forms. So if we come back over here to K2 Designer, I already have a form that I've pushed out. It's my time off request. So let's go ahead and run that form in the browser. This is something that we converted from a balsamic mockup. And I'll come over here and I'll run my checker, and you can see we have 14 general errors, and we want to get that down to 0. So I will come over here. We have an app that we deploy into your K2 environment. It's called our Accessibility Maker. We'll just run that. You can bookmark this later. But if I run that, this is the way that you can apply WCAG to any of your existing forms. So I'm going to come into here. We have that time off request, and I want to apply. I want to click this Make Accessible option. I'm going to choose my Kudzu Gray profile as well. These profiles really come in handy, in particular if you use list views, editable list or non-editable K2 lists. That the style profiles really help. There's some contrast issues with the default styling, but all we have to do is select the form, click make accessible, and that's it. Now you can see we've applied it over here, and if I refresh this form, and if I go into my EqualWeb, you can see now we have 0 errors. It's really that simple. The way it works is we basically inject some scripts into the form, the accessibility scripts, and it just works that easily. Just a little side note: there's different tools that are available for WCAG compliance checking. We don't endorse any of them. We've noticed that some of them have some false positives, so just be aware of that if you're playing around with this kind of stuff. But other than that, it really is that simple to go to get you to WCAG compliance using Kudzu and K2. Thank you for your time.